I go to File, Save As, and here I choose PDF, right? I went over some of these settings here with some of you, but if you don't know, the reason why you're setting up artboards is because we have access to what page we want to print, right? So right now by default we are using artboards. I have 4 artboards in this file, right? Four artboards, and I can print any one of them directly, or I can print intervals as well. So I can print 1 to 4, which is all of them, or I could print like 2 to 4, 1 to 2. If I want to reprint one of them, I could just enter 1 there and I'll get a PDF with 1 artboard on it. That's the whole point of using artboards. So I'm going to do all, and then let's call it test 1. I'm going to save it. Now I get this save Adobe PDF interface, right? And here I'm going to choose press quality so that my compression is minimal, so that the quality of the drawings are maintained. Now, if you go to marks and bleeds on the left, marks and bleeds, if these are unchecked, you won't get bleeding marks around your boards, right? So what do I mean by that? So I'm going to save the first one without the bleeding marks, and I'm going to do the same thing again. Call this one test 2. Save. Again, press quality and go to marks and bleeds, and just hit check here, so that we get trim marks, registration marks, color bars. I mean, you actually don't need the color bars or page information. All you need is trim marks, but I'm just going to show you what those are. Okay? I'm going to do save it as PDF. Yeah, just keep the offset as is. That's fine. Yeah, that's enough. So now, the first one prints like this, right? So this is 11 by 23. There are no bleeding marks on the side. So I get the same artboard that I saw in Illustrator. But if I open test 2, I get these marks added on top of the 23 dimension. Right? So from this line to this line is 23. These are additional, added. Why? Because when you print it like this, then you can put the ruler aligned with these lines and just trim it along it. So it will help you mount the drawings better. Otherwise, if you get a perfect sheet that is 11 by 23, you will have a hard time cutting the edges, because if you cut them in, you will lose the paper size. Does that make sense to everyone? No. This just adds. If you want me to actually prove it, I'll open one in Photoshop and show you what the dimension of the sheet became. It just adds the bleeding marks on top of the paper size you have. And the reason why I shrank it to 23 is because I want you to use 24-inch paper size. Yeah, because if I kept it at 24, then the bleeding marks would have made it impossible to fit on a 24-inch paper size on a plotter. Okay, I'm just being practical, basically. Yeah. So this one is available, and when you put your drawings onto this one, all you have to do is, if you've been like editing some stuff, finished your line weights or drawings, just open the old file, copy and bring them here, and just save it from this, or just change your board sizes. I want you to remove the gray backgrounds. Okay, I want you to align the sheet titles underneath the drawings. So where the drawing stops, just put it at the right bottom of it. And I'm going to talk with some of you of making one of your drawing boards vertical. So for instance, you have the Botta house, you have 4 plants, you can stack them up vertically, right? So you can have one vertical board. If you have the chance of making a vertical board, go for it. If not, you can keep everything horizontal. The reason why I'm giving you that option is because for the final exhibit you're going to have a lot of different sizes, but all of them are going to be 23 or 11, and with 1-inch gap you can make like a collage. So you're going to have a wall and you can like stack them up on it, right? So let me show you what. Edit artboards, artboard 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I were to go to save as, I can change the range here, right? So I can print 4, I can print 1 and 2, 3 individually. Yeah, so you can print it on a 24-inch plotter, basically. 24-inch white paper. And don't forget to add the bleeding marks, which you will need for mounting, right? So this is the print you will get, and then you would basically attach this paper onto the foam board, and then you'll put your ruler here, line it up, and then make a really fine trim. Yeah. No, I mean, it's fine if you don't submit it with bleeding marks. I'm just saying, it's fine with it too. Yeah. Yeah, it's online. It's on T-square. 11 by 23. Yeah. That's okay. I'll grade that. No problem. Solid modeling in Rhino. We're going to be modeling a staircase, something like this, in 3D. Okay, I'll write the dimensions on the board. So go to Tools, Options, Units, change your model units to feet. Feet. Tools, Options, Units, model units in feet. And then after you do that, double click to your viewport to minimize it so that you get 4 viewports. We're going to work on the top viewport for now. So I go to the top viewport. And I'm going to draft my staircase in 2D first. Okay? Then we can use it to do the 3D modeling. So I'm going to start with the line tool. I'm going to turn on grid snap. You can also turn on your ortho. So I have ortho and grid snap on. I have the endpoint snap on. And I'm going to come in here, start from the origin, go up by 5. Then I'm going to go right. I'm going to have 8 steps. So 8 by 2, it's going to be 16. That's the first rectangle. Now I'm going to have a landing. I'm going by 5, go up by 11, go down by 5. Just watch me for now. Watch me for now. And then this rectangle, I'm going to have it on this side as well. So that's the outline of my stairs. These are my 2 runs. This is my landing. I'm doing a 2D drafting of my staircase. I'm going to put on a layer as well. So these are going to be outline. Then I'm going to have one more layer as steps. And I'm going to switch to that layer, come in here, draw a line. Actually, I can do this. Since I have, let's see. Let's draw this, and then offset, distance 2. I'm going to add my steps. After I edit these, I'm going to select them, do copy, and then put them there. So that's basically the outline of my staircase. And I'm going to draft the dimensions so that you could do the same. These are my dimensions. It's under drafting tab. Yeah. So that you can draft it as well. Okay. So I'll wait. I give you a couple. We're going to start modeling in 3D. I'm going to first outline one of these steps here. So go to the standard tab again. Grab the rectangle. And then I'm going to draw a rectangle here from that corner to this corner, so that now I have a rectangle there. Now you'll be drawing over an existing geometry, and when you want to like grab the rectangle, if you click on one of these lines, it will grab, like bring down a list of items on that intersection, on that selection, and you can iterate through the selection menu to grab the rectangle you just created. It will be the last one. Right, so it's this guy. Doesn't matter. So once the rectangle is selected, I'm going to double click to the View tab, and then I'm going to move to the Perspective tab and double click to the Perspective. And I want to zoom to the geometry, so I'm going to click here, zoom selected, or the shortcut will be ZS for zoom selected. Once you executed it, it will show you the rectangle, whatever you have selected in Rhino. Okay, and you can use the roller to zoom in, zoom out. You can hold right mouse button to do orbiting around it, so that you can examine it. Or you could hold the shift and the right mouse button to do panning, so you can move up and down, orbit, zoom in, zoom out, right? So that's kind of the 3D navigation. Now I'm going to turn this into a solid step. I'm going to type in extrude curve, and that will give me a direction for extrusion. So I can go up or I can go down. Look at this value here. Look at what it reads. When I go down, it's reading as negative, and when I go up, it's reading it as positive, right? Because the extrusion also has a direction input. So I'm going to do, if you look at the menu, we are specifying a direction. We are not going to extrude both sides, so both sides is set to no. I want this to be a solid extrusion, so hit this to be yes if it's no. So you can toggle among these selections by hitting these options. I'm going to make it a solid extrusion. I'm not going to choose the lead input. If you choose the lead input, it's going to delete the rectangle we modeled. And that should be it. The extrusion distance, I'm going to hit 1. Enter 1 here and hit enter. Now I should get a step that is 1 foot high. So this is 3D model, basically. 3D box. Zoom out, roller. Roll in and out. Huh? Yours is... Okay, so if it's not shaded, right click to the Perspective tab. Switch to shaded or rendered view. If you're in wireframe, you will just see the wireframe. If you right click to the perspective, switch to rendered. Yeah, right click to the Perspective tab, switch to rendered. You could also go to view, rendered. Yeah, that renders an image though. This is viewport setting, right? Now if you got one step, next thing I want you to do is type in copy, select the staircase, select the step. After you select it, right click confirmation, point to copy from. I want you to copy it from this corner to this corner. And then keep doing it. Alright? So I created one more step. So I have 2, 4, 8 steps here. I'm going to create one more. So I choose the last one, type in copy. Again, I need to use orbiting, panning around to get the right point, right? I cannot just if I grab it from a weird angle, I may not get the right point. So you want to orbit around it so that you can grab the right point. I'm going to choose this corner again, create a copy here. Now, I'm going to create the landing. To do that, I'm going to use the scale function, and I'm going to type in scale 1D, which will enable me to stretch one side of the box. So I'm going to do scale 1D. The object to scale is the last step. I'm going to do right click. Now look at what it says. It says choose an origin point. My origin point is going to be here. I want that point to be locked. And then it says scale factor or first reference point. Let's do reference point. My first reference point is going to be this edge, which is at 2 feet. And now I can stretch this box along that edge. So I'm going to hit 5. And I have scaled the box along that edge by 2.5 point. Sure, I'm going to do it to the other side anyway. So I'm going to select the same box, do scale 1D again. Origin this time is this corner. The edge is going to be this edge. Look at what it reads. It reads 5 feet. Right? That's the width of my run. So I'm going to choose this 5 feet, and I want it to be 11 feet. So I enter 11 on my keyboard and hit enter. So that's my landing. Okay? So origin point, all the solid models in Rhino. Right now these objects are created in the step layer. I'm going to create one more layer here and call it 3D forms. And I'm going to move these forms into that layer so that I can hide my drafting lines temporarily, or you can separate them basically, right? So I'm going to, you can choose these by holding shift, and you can like go through them one by one, or simply if you want to choose all of them at the same time, you can type in select poly surface, select poly surface, and that will choose all the solid objects in the viewport. And then I want to change their layer to be 3D forms. And then if I hide those, I can switch back and forth between curves and forms, right? Curves and 3D models basically. Now I'm going to just select this layer and hide everything else so that I only have solid forms in my viewport. And then the next thing I'm going to do is model the rest of the staircase. And to do that, I'm going to choose these steps here. Look at how I'm choosing them. I'm drawing a marquee from left to right. The solid marquee selects everything that it encompasses, right? It just highlights. So I get all these steps into my selection. I'm going to type in group. Group will temporarily put these in a cluster, so if I select one of them, all of the items in that group will be selected. Right? No, I mean, basically I can, it just puts them in a group. Like, and then if I want to take them out of the group, I can select them and do ungroup. And now they will be individual objects again, right? So it's just, it helps you modeling in groups basically if you have something repeating. So I'm going to group these items, and then the next thing I'm going to do a copy of them. So I do copy again. I want to just move it around. So I just move a copy here. It doesn't matter how far it is. I'm going to rotate this guy 180. So I type in rotate. Choose these steps. Center of rotation, I'm going to choose this corner. And then you can either do this graphically by choosing a reference line and then rotating it along that line, or you can just enter 180 and it will flip to the other side. And when you get to there, the last thing would be to move it using this corner point to that corner, right? So you can just snap it back to where it is. Okay? That's my staircase. You want me to do it again? Okay. So select these steps, group them, make a copy, rotate 180, and then put it to the other corner. here is my step. I make another copy of it. I copy it from this corner to this corner. Then I choose this step. I type in scale 1D. Follow the instructions. The origin point. The origin point you select will be a point or edge that is fixed on the geometry, right? So I want the step to be fixed on that corner. I choose this as my origin. And then it says scale factor of first reference point. I'm going to do the reference point. So I can grab a dimension on the object and then tell Rhino what I want that dimension to be. So I'm going to choose this edge. If you look down here, it's giving me the dimension of it, right? My step is 2 feet. So I'm grabbing the 2 feet edge, and now I'm saying I want it to be 5. So I just enter 5, hit enter. It takes the 2 and makes it 5. So it stretches the geometry along that edge. And the next one, I'm going to do it again to the other edge. So I run the same command by right-clicking. Origin point this time is this corner, or it could be that corner, doesn't matter. I'm going to choose this edge, and it reads at 5 feet. I'm going to type in 11, and I stretch it along that edge as well. Okay? Come in here, Tools, Options, Units, back to inches. Inches, okay. You don't want to scale it, choose no. And then go to the top view. Your site model right now is 13 by 18, right? That's my starting point. Now I need some lines here. I need some regions. So whatever dimensions you're measuring. Let's say I have a solid block by 2 inches. So I go 2 inches. Then I go by 5 inches. And then close it. Right? So this is how we would do it. You would come in here. This guy. Extrude curve. How many layers is it? It's 3 cardboards. So it's going to be 1 cardboard is 1/8. Huh? 1/8 inch. So it's 3 cardboards, 3/8 inches. That's my 3/8 inches cardboard. You can even do 1 and just make vertical copies of it on top of each other, like layer by layer, right? I'm going to switch back to wireframe. Choose this guy. Extrude curve. I'm looking at her model. So this one goes, I guess, 10 layers. So it's going to be 1 inch. And then I can move this up here. Right? I'm building it layer by layer. If, let's say there's another layer here, I can copy it, copy this corner here. And maybe this guy is 1 layer. I can do scale 1D. I can choose this edge and make it 1/8. Right? This is 3 stacks of cardboard. This is 10 stacks of cardboard. This is 1 stack of cardboard. And the outlines could be different. I don't know what your model is, but I want you to start working on that. Okay? So she has a stepped landscape. So I want everybody to follow me for a sec. I'm going to draft something that looks like hers, basically. So I'm going to go by 5 inches. Then let's say I go 8 inches here. And then close it up. And then I'm going to do from this side, I think it's another 6. And then this way, 12. And then 7. Right? So it's something like this. So on her model, these guys are solid extrusions. So I'm going to extrude this guy by 1. And I'm going to extrude this one by 1 as well. I'm going to do... let me fix that quickly. Okay. So So she has steps here, and she's asking me if she has to do each layer by layer. You don't. Right? You can do it this way, out of solids. So measure the landing here. What is the landing? Let's say it's 1 foot. So go 1 inch. So I go to the other side, close it. I'm going to extrude this guy by 1 as well. Now I can add the steps here. Right? So I can model a little staircase here that goes all the way up. So all I have to do is model 1 step and then make copies of it until I touch the ground. How do I do that? I can just grab this guy, copy, make a copy of it here. What is one step size? I'm going to do scale 1D, choose this edge. Let's say that edge, 1 inch is going to be 1/4. That's 1 step. Right? Height-wise, 1 step is going to be 1/8. So that's 1 step. And then copy. Choose this corner, copy it up. Boom, boom, boom. That's it. It's easier, no? Find what the solid extrusions are and then add the steps, add the layers on top of it. Okay? Does that make sense? If I have something here, I can just go up 1 layer, break this down. Let's say this is 3. Maybe there's another one. And this guy is actually shorter. Right, let's say this is 2. And then height-wise, it's like that too. So rather than stacking up 8 layers or 4 layers of these L shapes here, I can just break that whole box, like this whole mass into these 2 blocks, right? And that's what I want you to do basically. And then if there are steps here, you can add the steps later. So you can add model steps here and model steps there. You don't have to draft it layer by layer. Alright? I'll show you what I mean. So copy, scale 1D. This guy is going to be 0.2, and then height is going to be 0.4. Scale 1D, the height is going to be 0.3. Scale 1D, 0.2. Scale 1D, 0.1. Right? I can add those blocks. Everything could be added up afterwards. And if I need to stretch these, I can also grab the staircase, do scale 1D to all of them at the same time along a common edge they're sharing. So I want to maybe stretch these to be half. So I can just like stretch all of them along that edge and make them half. And maybe this guy is repeating, so I can choose that, group it, and then copy it and place it here. You can reuse some of the models you're making. Alright? I'll actually have fun with mine as well, while you guys are working on yours. So maybe there's another solid form here. Copy. I'm going to bring this guy here. Scale 1D. And the nice thing about scale 1D is you can use reference geometry. So I'm choosing an edge on the block, but then for reference I can choose any other point in the model. So let's say I want to align this edge to this edge. I can grab something from that edge, right? You guys see how that snapping works? I'm choosing that edge, and then it finds the projection of it and does the scaling for me. I can do the same thing vertically. I can choose that corner again, and it will find the projection and lock it there, right? So it's like using it as a reference. When you switch to the top layer, when you start drafting stuff, you may snap to three-dimensional positions, and then your polyline may not be flat anymore. Let me show you what I mean by that. So I'm going to choose, I'm going to create a new layer here. So let's say, let's make this red curve. So let's say I want to model a rectangle here, right? I grab the rectangle, the polyline tool. I come in here. I'm snapping to an endpoint. I don't know which endpoint it is yet, so I'm just grabbing here, grabbing one here, grabbing one here, 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 and then closing it up. So let's see how that rectangle looks like. That's how it looks like in 3D. Okay, so for these intersections, it found the right intersection, but for this one, it grabbed a point in a different height. There are two ways to fix that. This is because when you're clicking on that point, there are multiple end geometries where the cursor could snap to, and that's why Rhino is going with the best. But oftentimes, it's not the best for you. If you have this situation, you can pull all those points or the geometry up to a level using set point command. So you type in set point, set pt for the shortcut, set point. And then once you type that in, under the set points option, just enable set z. Uncheck set x and set y. This will enable you to override the z values of the points of the geometry. So if I do set z, hit OK, it will ask me to choose a z point, z value for these points. So I can choose, let's say, this corner point or this height, and then it will pull all the points of that polyline to that z value. Okay, I'll do it again. So I'm going to do the same drafting. So let's say, started from here, went here, grabbing some stuff here. All I'm trying to do is like snap to 3D geometry that I know at different heights, and I'm getting an outline. So that's what I got, right? This point snapped here, this point snapped there, this point snapped there. So they're at different heights basically in the model. And if you get this situation, you can fix them by typing in set point. And I want to do set z. Hit OK. I want this polyline to be drafted at this level. So I choose a point on that level. So it pulls all those points up to that level. And then I can do my extrusion. Right? Because the other one wouldn't extrude properly. It won't close faces. Another way to fix this issue is to enable projection. I also want you guys to see this. So rather than drafting some polyline in 3D and pulling it up, if you enable project under object snap options, if you activate project, every time you're drafting in a viewport, it will find its intersection at the 0 height. So this will be, whatever I'm clicking on, it will be drafted on the construction plane. The height will be set to 0 for the points. So I'll just do the same outline again. So I'm going to grab these points one more time. Right? This curve will be drafted at the bottom of the rectangle. It will be drafted on the construction plane, the grid. Do you guys see this plane? The X and Y. So if I enable project, whatever point I'm clicking from, it will find its projection to the construction plane. I'm seeing confused faces. I'll explain the technical background of what this is, basically. So if I have no projection, how are we drafting stuff? We are snapping to geometry, right? I'm trying to get kind of an outline, whatever the outline is. But if you look at my model, along this edge, there are different z values, right? And when I'm looking at a top view, I'm not seeing any of those z values, right? I'm just, let me actually show you what is happening in 2D and 3D simultaneously. So if I'm here, I'm trying to grab a point here. Look at what it grabbed in the 3D model. It grabbed that top point. And then I come in here, and it grabbed that top point again. I come in here, it grabbed that one. I come down here, it grabbed even another point at the bottom. I come in here, 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 here. Although my line is consistent in top view, in 3D it's not, because it's snapped to different points. If you get a polyline like this, you can fix it using the setPoint command, which will enable you to override x, y, z values of the points of the polyline. So that's what I did. I just did set z, and I set the z value of the polyline to be at this level. So it just pulls everything, compresses the whole polyline to that z, right? But I don't have to deal with that. I can also go to the top view and enable project, and now whatever I'm drafting here, it will be drafted planar, on a planar surface. It will be drafted on the construction plane. The construction plane is this grid that you're seeing, where the z value is 0, right? So although I'm going to grab some geometry, some reference from the 3D model, it will find its projection to the construction plane, and it will give me a planar curve. And I can use that curve for extrusion, to extrude it, to move it up, to scale 1D, all of those operations I can do that, right? So whatever you're drafting in top view, enable project so that your lines stay flat. Or if you have drafted them at different heights, you can use setPT command to pull them up. I'm going to do the same model that I did, but I'll do it in a different way. So we can go over some of the Boolean operations. I'm going to make a copy of it, and then make a copy of these two rectangles, right? So I know the way I did was I extruded these individual pieces that were solid models, right? Solid extrusions, and then I had a base as an extrusion. Now I'm going to do the reverse. What I'm going to do is extrude the whole thing as a solid, and then subtract this as a void. Okay? That's going to be a Boolean called a Boolean operation. And the Boolean operations are located under solid tools. So if you go to the solid tool tab, the Boolean operations are the first four. So there's Boolean Union, which joins two geometries. Actually, let me do a quick rundown. So I'll just do two intersecting prisms, and make 4 copies of it to show you what each operation does, basically. So this is the first one is going to be union. So union, you basically run Boolean Union command, Boolean Union, or you can hit this button, Boolean Union, and let's see what Rhino asks us. It says select surfaces or polysurfaces to union. It's basically asking you to choose shapes to join. I'm going to choose this guy and this guy, and once the selection is done, you press enter. So I'm going to hit right click. Now this has become one object, and the geometry at the intersection is gone. Why? Because the two solids are intersecting there, and Rhino takes it out because there is no need to keep it as geometry, right? You guys see it? The geometry part of where the intersection was is lost. Huh? This is complete solid right now, yeah. And the second one is difference. So when I do a difference, it says select surfaces or polysurfaces to subtract from. So I have to first choose a geometry that I want to carve from, right? So I want to choose this guy to carve from. Once the selection is done, you confirm by right-clicking or press enter. Then the second command, it says select surface or polysurfaces to subtract with. Now I want to take this guy out, right? So I told Rhino I want to subtract from this guy, I want to subtract this guy. Now what it does is it takes it as a negative. It carves it out, right? So it uses that solid information as negative. And the next one is intersection. What do you think the intersection is going to do? It's basically going to keep wherever the solid forms are overlapping and just get rid of everything else. So if I do, it's also like the previews kind of give you a hint, right? So if I do Boolean intersection, Boolean intersection, it says select first set of surfaces. I choose this guy, right click. Second set, I choose this one, right click, and Rhino calculates where those two solids intersect and preserves that geometry and deletes everything else. And then the last one is going to be Boolean Split. And Boolean Split says select surface or polysurfaces to split. I want to split this guy using this guy. So what this does is basically it uses this as a cutting object and slices the other geometry with it. So if I delete this one, I will have two portions of the solid where the object cut it, right? So it's kind of a combination of difference and intersection, so it preserves both of those geometries of where the intersection was happening. Okay? So now if I want to apply this to site modeling, what I'm going to do is first create a solid for the site. So I'm going to do extrude curve again. I'm going to choose the overall site and extrude it up to this height, but you want to take off the project so that you can select a point in Z. So that's my solid extrusion, that's my site. And then I go to the top view and I need this as a solid form that I can subtract with, right? So I could also do it this way. I could do I could basically model primitives there. So I could model a box here. That's a box, and the other box is going to be here. Right? So I want to subtract this shape from this shape. Right? So I do Boolean difference. Select surface or polysurfaces to subtract from. I want to subtract from this guy. Right click. Polysurfaces to subtract with. I want to choose this and this. You can choose multiple inputs as well. And now this guy's basically subtracted. Now I'm missing my base, so I'm going to just bring in my base. So my base is going to be here, and I can also do scale 1D simultaneously to multiple geometries if they are actually sharing a same edge. So if I want to stretch these guys vertically, I can do scale 1D, and I can choose this height, which is consistent among both solids, and I can stretch them to be at that height. Okay? So that's kind of another option you could do. It's called Boolean Operations, basically a form of solid modeling. And you can do it with primitives. So you can union, join, difference, intersection, split. You may want to do unions before difference, so that you can split multiple geometries afterwards, right? So I can basically join these three forms together. So I could type in Boolean Union, and this will become one solid. And now if I have something else intersecting with it, I can do subtraction from it. Okay? Any questions about this for now? Who wants me to go over it again? Who didn't understand what I was doing? Can I see hands? Who didn't understand what I was doing? Or how I did it? Please. If you have any questions, just like ask me. Okay? How about I'll do more? Yeah, that's just practice. I mean, that's why we're doing the workshop. And I'm recording the session as well, so you would always have access to how to do this. So I'll do another model here, and you can use Boolean basically to do that. So I'm going to start a new site model. So he has steps going in two directions and then a tunnel cutting through them, right? So let's have some drafting lines. Let's say the steps go up to 5 inches this way, and then 8 inches this way, 5 inches this way. These are where my stairs are, right? And then my tunnel is 5 inches off, and then I'm going to make an offset, let's say by 0.5. Right? So this is a tunnel. There are going to be steps here. Is that correct? Okay. So what I'm going to do first is to get a base, and then I'll get a top layer here. So I can do all of this in 3D as well. So let's work on it in 3D. So I'm going to do extrude curve. Come in here, do -1/8. So that's my base, and I'll move this guy to be at 3D forms layer, so that I can see my drafting lines in my solid forms. Then the next thing I'm going to do is switch to this one, and let's see. I'm going to have how many steps here? I'm going to have 5 inches, let's say, if 11. Let's say half an inch is a step. Okay, half an inch. I'm going to explode these 4 lines, choose these guys, and then join them. So that's technically my step. And then I'm going to do offset. Distance 0.5, and then add my steps to the corner. So that's what's happening, right? So I have kind of a ziggurat going on this edge, and then I have to dig in this tunnel through it, right? Okay, now what I can do is model the largest step. It may be good for you guys to watch this. Okay, what I'm going to do is model the largest step, and then make a copy of it diagonally, and then do Boolean subtractions to the overlapping edges. Right? So I'm going to first trace this large step here. So pretty much like the single step we did for the staircase. So that's my single step. Then I'm going to do extrude curve 1/8. And I'm going to grab this guy and make copies from this corner, right? So I keep going corner, corner. So I'm kind of stacking them up. Let's see, I need one more. So those are my corner steps. Now I'm not done because I need to trim these edges now that are overlapping. How do I do that? I can just model simple solids here. One solid here, and then another solid on the other side, right? And I'm going to use them to subtract from the staircases. So I could choose the staircases. I'm holding shift on my keyboard to add to the selection. Then I'm going to do Boolean difference. these are the surfaces I want to subtract from. Now it says select surfaces or polysurfaces to subtract with. I'm going to choose these two guys, right click, they will be trimmed along that corner. Huh? Sure. So I'm going to type in Boolean difference. It says select surfaces or polysurfaces to subtract from. I'm going to choose everything, alright? And then I'm going to hold control and deselect geometry from the selection so that I only have the steps left. Then once the geometry group that I want to subtract from is confirmed, I hit right click. Now I want to subtract this guy and this guy. And then right click again. Those two are subtracted. Right? And then the next thing I want to do is to model the solid here. So I can do it out of rectangle blocks again. I come in here, do a single solid extrusion up to here, and do another one up to here. I'm not sure if this is how your model was, but I guess that's okay. Right, so that's kind of the corner steps and the plateau. Now, I need to dug in this tunnel from it. Right? And I'm going to basically model this rectangle here. And then that rectangle is going to go all the way up to the bottom of the top stair. So that when I subtract it, the top stair is preserved. Right? So I can do scale 1D. This guy is going to be lined up with the bottom of the top stair. So that's kind of the form I'm going to subtract from the stairs. And then let's make it more interesting. Let's say we have a courtyard here. I can make a square courtyard as well. So I'm going to model a square. And then since this is going to be subtraction, its height doesn't matter. Right? I only need something to subtract with. And now I'm going to do a Boolean subtraction. So Boolean difference again. Now my set is important. So I do Boolean difference. Now what do I want to subtract from? I want to subtract from these steps and this geometry as well. Right? So I'm going to choose the steps. And I want to choose this guy here. And once that selection is selected, I hit right click to confirm. Now the geometries to subtract would be this geometry and this tunnel extrusion. Right? Once I right click, the Boolean subtraction is done. Right? So it kind of calculates what to subtract from what and then gives me the result. And I can do these in clusters as well. So multiple geometry subtractions I can do simultaneously. Any questions? In a minute. Okay. What you can do is, let's say you have drafted your stairs or steps or some sort of profile you want to use for cutting something, right? And it could be anything. It could be like steps, it could be levels. So I'll just keep this one on the side for now, but I'll just show you what I mean by that. So let's say there are some steps here that I need to subtract. So I'm going to draft some lines. So let's say by 5, and then I can go horizontally, let's say 2. And then let's say we go up by 0.5 again, and then this way by 1, and then go up again. So let's say I want to use this to trim the corner of this geometry. Okay? To do that is you go to Solid Tools. There's Wirecut here. And if you look at the symbol, there's basically a solid and a line that is used to cut and subtract from it. The shortcut would be Wirecut as well. So you just type in Wirecut. And then it says select cutting curve. I'm just going to choose this guy as my cutting curve. Right after that it says select objects to cut. I want to cut this guy. Now, it is asking me to enter how much I want to cut into that object. So I can, let's say, enter dimension. I enter 2, and I need to choose a side for extrusion. So I choose this side, and then it's going to ask for a direction for subtraction. Normally it goes along with the perpendicular direction, but you could come in here to the direction and then choose pick, and then you can draw a vertical line along that edge so that your extrusion goes up. And did it work? It actually didn't work. Let me try it again. I think it doesn't like when the edge of extrusion here overlaps. Let me see. If I do something like this, it works with the steps I made, but I have to find a way to get them. So let's try it again. Wirecut, cutting curve, cutting object, extrusion 2 inches this way, and then direction, I want to pick it to be Z, so I go up. Maybe my curve is not overlapping. Let's try this again. Wirecut. Well, cutting curve, solid, direction. I mean, it works for this one. It basically enables you to use a profile, extrude it, and then kind of doing extrusion and Boolean subtraction operations all in one, using just an outline curve. Let me try it again. I wonder why it doesn't like this guy. Maybe the line I drafted wasn't flat. That may be it. Wirecut. Yeah, it wasn't flat. But it's not giving me a good result actually. So when you do wirecut, let's say you have the profile drafted on the side of the block you want to cut from. You choose the curve, and then you choose the solid object, and then you can enter the depth of that profile. So let's say there are these steps along that corner, and then they're like 2 inches in. And my direction for extrusion is going to be all the way up Z. So you can override the direction and choose Z. So you go up. It's buggy. Using that a lot. So what were the dimensions of the solids you were going to add? The dimensions of the solids you were going to add to your part 2 of the assignment. So wait, 34 by 34? 34 what? Inches? Feet. What is it in inches? Huh? 4.25? 11? And then the same 425? For the thickness of it? Probably. So this is it? Huh? Extrude curve 4.25. Huh? 4.25 by 4.25 by 2. Okay, 21 is. It's okay. It's okay. 21 divided by 8. No, 21. Yeah, 2.625. Okay, this guy is 2.625. This guy is yeah. 4.25, okay, and then 55 divided by 8, 6.875. 75. Alright. These are the blocks. Correct? Alright. So now let's look at what shell does. So I'm going to make copies of this. So the shell command helps you to start with a solid block and then carve it out while maintaining some of the walls with thicknesses. So it's located under solid tools and it's right here. Shell close polysurface is the command, or you could type in shell for the shortcut. And the thickness we're going to enter is what? 1/8 is the thickness? 1/8? Yes. So if I want to have these two walls taken out and the rest shelled out, I could just choose these two faces and right click, and that's what shell does. It basically starts carving out the solid from those edges and then offsets the rest of the surfaces with the nominal thickness that I entered and makes it into a shell. And this is a pretty nice command you could use because you can do it in multiple faces at the same time. So let's say I want to choose, let's look at this one. I'm going to run the shell command again. I want to choose this edge and then this edge. It will basically make it hollow using those two surfaces as an input. Let's do another one. Let's do 1, 2, and maybe 3. It will basically take those faces out and offset the remaining faces with the shell thickness I'm entering and make it into a solid block, right? So these are basically solid still. So I could do shell again. Let's try doing maybe like this. So it gives me 3 walls. Okay, this is like one way of starting with the shell. But I think for this assignment, you could do these blocks partially with shell and partially you can add blocks as well. So you could, let's say you're taking these out, then you can come in and add maybe something to this corner, and the thickness of that could be the same thickness, right? So it's going to be 1/8. You won't be able to do it with the with the shell command. The shell command takes in the face of a solid directly, but you can then add in other solids to it. Okay? Then you can measure them. Let's say this guy is going to the middle. So maybe that's one of the blocks. Alright? And I think these could be horizontal or vertical. Right? So yes, as long as you are defining the volume, you're good. Alright, so you can combine shell. So you can also do that. It's like a U shape. And then you can also do the other stuff, like other Boolean stuff. Let's say you want to take something out. You could do Boolean Subtraction. Right? You can take it out. Or you could do one like this. You could do from this guy. This will still show the same volume, right? you can come up with like cool stuff. Another thing I want to tell you is if you can also lock movement or displacement to the vertical axis. So for instance, let's say I want this guy to be like at a specific height. If I'm typing in move, look at the move command. There is vertical option as well. So if you choose vertical yes, any type of value you're entering, it will move the object on the vertical axis, right? So if I want to move this up by 2 inches, I can enter 2 inches and it will move up vertically by 2. Otherwise, you can snap from point to point. It's the same thing. You can still move vertically by snapping from point to point, but if you don't have anything to move to, you can also make displacements vertically, like that. I basically typed in move, selected the object, and then enabled vertical yes, so that it becomes a vertical displacement. Yes. Hold shift basically, so it's like orthogonal displacement. Yeah. It will keep moving.